Good day. Sonny Nichols with your daily devotional. Today's devotion comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 19, verses 24 through 26. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. When the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished and asked, "Who then can be saved?" Jesus looked at them and said, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." First house I lived in the Heights, next door neighbor, it was just a regular average neighborhood, but the people that lived next door, older gentleman and his wife, come to find out were very wealthy, and they could have afforded a lot more than what they had. But anyway, shortly after we moved in, I guess 6-8 months, he died. And he used to take care of the yard, and he had like a crew or something that did the yard work. But anyway, after he was gone, I saw the lady. She was constantly out trying, and there seemed like there was always a different crew every year or so or something. And she was always yelling at him, and she was never happy, and didn't like this and didn't like that. And finally, I guess what happened was nobody really wanted to come and do her yard. And it was growing up quite a bit. And so I saw her out one day, and I told her, I said, "Well, while I'm mowing my grass, I said, if you'd like, I'll mow your yard." And she said, "Well, how much have I got to pay you?" And I said, "I'll just do it. I'm mowing my yard. I'll just mow your yard." Well, it was her front yard. And it wasn't, our front yards weren't that big. And their backyard, because they were rich, had been totally paved like a patio. I never quite understood that because they never really had company to come over to enjoy it. Her husband, and when she was by herself, I don't think anybody. I saw, I think, children and grandchildren come, but they weren't there very long. And anyway, I'd start doing the yard. Well, was she critical? I mean, I couldn't do anything right, and I was and finally, I got to a point after time, and I said, if I'm not doing the job you want, I'll stop. No, you're doing it free. I won't complain as much or whatever. Well, she still complained a little bit, but eventually I learned what she wanted, and I figured out how to do, I would do her yard, and it got to a point that I never really heard anything from her. I would mow my yard and then do her front yard too. Well, every once in a while she'd say, "The yard looks good. Look at the yard," or something like that. And so I just continued, and then eventually moved away and kind of forgot about it or whatever. But a few years later or whatever, I was in the same neighborhood visiting a friend that I had made and had actually moved into that neighborhood. And we were talking, and as I was driving away, I saw people out in front of her house. And I kind of slowed down, and I said, "Is Mrs. So-and-so still here?" And they said, "No, that was our grandmother. She died, and we live in the house now." And I went, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." I said, "I used to mow her front yard." And the girl looked at me and she said, "Are you Sonny?" And I said, "Yeah, you remember how do you know my name?" And she said, "Grandma talked about you all the time, how you helped, how you did everything for free. And if she had more friends like you, she might have been a little more happier, maybe." But it just surprised me. But it says, Jesus saw potential, and instead of discarding me, he redeemed me. Salvation is possible for everyone, including my well-to-do neighbor. God's needle, threaded by Jesus, is big enough for anyone to pass through. Have a good day.